Hello and welcome to another episode of Tri Talk. Today with me, as ever, is my wonderful co-host Aneta Grabmuller-Soldati. We are joined by an extremely exciting guest by Isla Hedley. Isla, for those of you who don't know, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, Isla is, in my opinion, the number one name to look out for on the XTERRA circuit. She's a huge up-and-coming talent. She is the current cross triathlon world champion for or under 23 from Pontevedra, and in this year's World Championships, she came seventh in the elite women, that being after a huge puncture. I don't think Isla needs much more of an introduction to that. She's extremely talented. Isla, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me on.
I think Isla is the most exciting thing that has happened to female XTERRA competitions in the last couple of years, because the names kind of remain unchanged, but she came in, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but your first race this year was Western Park?
Yeah, first race like in the entire season was Western Park, yeah.
And straight away you came third. Then you continued in the Czech Republic, am I right?
Yeah, Czech Republic, and then
Another third in the short track. And then you had an absolutely amazing performance in Molveno, where I think if you haven't had flat tire, I think we can probably say you would have a medal. And I'm really excited to follow you in the next year, because you are a huge talent and we can't deny that. But I just talked to you a little bit, and you are also very talented road triathlete. You have raced the sprint distance as a junior, and you finished 12th at the Junior World Championship in 2024, which is an incredible result. And I have to ask, like, what made you switch to XTERRA in 2025? Why didn't you continue with Olympic triathlon?
well, I did still do like trial races for the road championships. I just didn't qualify. I was close both times, but in the end, yeah, I didn't qualify. So that opened more doors to race some more Xterras. So I am still doing both, but it's a difficult decision to choose which path. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were last year, you were the first time U23, right? This year it's gonna be your second year in U23 category. Is that still your plan to try to qualify for to represent Great Britain at the Olympic distance?
Yes, I think going forward, I think I'm going to try and see how far I can go on the road, because I don't think pathways are completely closed off yet, and I think I've still got things to explore and things to improve. But at the same time, I really love Xterra, and
You're really good at it too.
yeah, I really love Xterra, and I think it suits me, like the endurance and the technical sides.
Why do you think it suits you? So what are the prerequisites that you? Because okay, I'll go on a bit of a rant. I feel like road triathletes have a hard time sometimes transitioning to Xterra and selling all of their talent. Look at Richard Murray, who's a huge name. Look at Alanis Siffert, right? Somebody who's absolutely incredible at what they do, but then you come in and you can just sell what you have, and maybe I'm sure there's margin, but
I
how do you
think
do that?
we are a bit unfair to road triathletes now, because we do have road triathletes that were excellent at Xterra and vice versa, like Flora Duffy, right? She comes from Xterra, so I think it shows that you can actually be good at both.
Yeah, I think my off-road skills complement my road skills. I've done like a few. Well, I mean, my mountain biking kind of journey, I started with some downhill races. So I've I've kind of progressed from the more extreme downhill enduro into some more cross country. So I've got a little bit of a background in like mountain biking, and I've done hill running since I was very young. So like it's accumulation of things I've done as a child in separate disciplines all kind of coming together, and that's where I found myself at Xterra.
That explains a lot. I mean, you can write. We saw it, but I will go back to the Olympic distance triathlon if you don't mind. What I'm really curious about the British support to young athletes and athletes like you. You you prove yourself on the Junior European Cup. Um, Anyone who knows a little bit about Olympic distance triathlon knows that XTERRA is always like very competitive race, and you finish fourth there, then you were the best British at the World Champs. So what does that mean for you as a British athlete? Do you get some support? Are you obligated, for example, to continue road triathlon or focusing on road, or do you have a complete freedom what races you want to do? How does that work?
Well, firstly, I do have at the moment, I have a complete freedom of races I want to do. I'm on the Scottish performance pathway for triathlon, and I'm training at a national triathlon centre, like here in Scotland at Stirling. The sport, I think, it comes like if you can qualify through it. Like if you're performing at like the under-23 world, like podiuming or stuff like that. So I've not reached that level yet, but that gives me flexibility to have my own schedule and kind of pick which races I want to do at the moment. But it's not to say I can't, and I'm not aiming to get onto that. It's just that's not where I am just yet.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, I can imagine that in Great Britain
It's quite competitive.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But I feel like a lot of nations, when they have talent on road triathlon, they try to like protect it and just don't want to let them do much else. So I was just curious about that.
That's interesting. So how do you prioritize which races when we talked before off air, not that I didn't come late, but when we talked off air on a phone call with Isla, you talked to me about the culture of XTERRA and how that's so incredibly different to road triathlon. So what is the calculus in your head? Why do I choose to do XTERRA, or why do I choose to do road? Let's say you have an A plus priority race that would clash on a weekend. Which one would you choose?
Well, I'm kind of in that situation at the moment. There's two races at the same. There's Dunsborough or there's XTERRA on the same weekend, and I think where it ultimately comes down to is how it affects my season, and then it's like, what do I feel is right in my gut to do? Which would I enjoy more? What would the purposes of each? What would I get out of doing each race? Not specifically for that moment in time, but how that has an impact later on in the season or later on in my development as an athlete.
What is the ultimate goal then?
Still working towards it. Long term, I've got like long term XTERRA goals, obviously. Like,
no, I mean like all kind of triathlon.
well, I would like to become a professional triathlete.
Is Olympics something that is on your mind, for example?
Olympics is, yeah. I'm not closed anything off yet. I don't have. Obviously, everyone wants to try and qualify to the Olympics, but it's not that easy. And you can get so close. It's just building up like experience and being in the right place at the right time, having a bit of luck.
I think especially in British triathlon.
Especially in British triathlon, there's a lot of competition, and people that I think are going to be around for quite a while. So I'm probably looking for I don't know, like in 12 years' time or something, which is because I'm quite young, feels so long away. Like, but yeah, XTERRA wise, yeah, I would like to World Cup, World Champ, whatever. I think I've still got a long way to learning the distance, learning the courses, learning how to race that type of event. I know I did a few last year, but still got like obviously bits to improve on and training more specifically.
So you mentioned this, that you have this room to grow, especially within the circuit, right? How do you identify that? How do you look at, okay, what am I good at and what am I not good at? And what are those things for you right now at the moment, if you don't mind sharing with Aneta, a competitor of yours, essentially?
So at first, I need to swim faster so Aneta can't sit on my feet. No, like at the end of the season, I would like review races. I'm sure a lot of people do that. one thing I found last year was like I felt like I'd come out with swim with Annetta and then feel like I was being hunted down on the bike. I have not felt as strong as the other women in the field on the bike. So that's like one area that I've kind of identified. Yes, whilst I might have the technical ability, I don't have like the raw power at the moment, which could be as well like I'm younger, I've not had the years of building up, but like I don't want to have that as an excuse. It's just something to target and
But correct me if I'm wrong, if it's just my impression. I think you got so much stronger on the bike already during the season. Like if I would compare your first XTERRA race and the last XTERRA race, like you got so much stronger.
yeah. I mean, at Molveno, right? That
Yeah.
first hill, I was a bit cold, so I was trying to. I maybe went a bit hard just because I was trying to warm up, but equally that didn't feel super hard because I was thinking about other stuff. Like
It felt hard to me. I got dropped, for those that don't know, I got dropped by Isla and what's her name? The Swiss girl.
Alana.
Alanis, because Alanis attacked, right?
Mm.
On the uphill.
I mean, she just tried to put the hammer down.
No, but she was leading. She was leading for a
She
second.
Yeah.
did,
She did get away a little bit, didn't she?
yeah, until we got into the terrain. But yeah, we were pushing some solid watts there.
I completely agree with Anita. I think you, Isla, have really improved a lot on the bike. When I was analyzing your races throughout the season, I always try to get a hold on what an athlete's strengths or weaknesses are. And it seemed to me kind of coming into Weston Park, I had the theory that because you were kind of to the sport a little bit and because you had the end that you need for the road, for the sprint distances and Olympic distances, then maybe because it's such a different discipline. I mean, it's a longer effort. The efforts. I mean, you can't pace yourself. There's practically no group dynamics, no tactics. You can't sit in a pack, nothing like that. And I was thinking, especially in Weston Park, even though I mean third place is a great result, I was thinking, okay, this shows because she doesn't maybe still have the endurance necessary or like the fatigue resistance, as I try to call it, because Weston Park was kind of a flat and fast course, right? And so it was not a really XTERRA course, in my opinion. You kind of saw some slightly strange results there from kind of throughout the men's and the women's field. Then coming into Czech Republic, I was like, okay, she like shows the flashes of dominance, right? I mean,
You had a flat in Czech, right?
Yeah, kind of towards the end before we got into the bike park bit. Yeah.
You show the flashes of brilliance, right? You were at the front of a race. Same thing with Germany, being at the front of a race with Selene. I was like, wait, why is Selene with Isla? Either Selene is like not good, Selene won the race, or Isla's just like nuclear and you were nuclear, and you've just improved steadily throughout the entire season, and that was really cool to see.
I think it's just learning like what to expect, what your legs are going to feel like. Kind of pacing, I find it hard to pace. I'm just like go all out from the beginning.
I mean, it's such a big change from junior racing. Like you went from 1 hour race to 3+ hours, and it's just completely different game. And you succeeded at the transition, and I'm so impressed. Like seriously, it took me way longer to figure it out than you did.
Yeah, I think I did learn quite a lot from like the beginning of the season to the end of the season, particularly with fueling, because that's not really something I've had to think about and before. Because obviously, for a 1 hour race, you just take a gel before the start and get on with it.
So how'd you change that?
Well, I hadn't really looked into it that much. I was just like, I know I have to do it, but I have not calculated how much I have to take, and I do have a Garmin on my bike, so I was just kind of trying to like try and fuel every 20 minutes.
And is that something you do in training as well?
Yeah, like on long rides and stuff like that, and I do fuel. I just hadn't I think I was probably underfueling in training, but because it was endurance and I had to eat a lot, like either side of the session, I was like feeling fine. But then when you're trying to put in that extra bit of effort, like you do in a race, then it can really come back to bite you, especially in the heat as well.
And talking about training, you training in a national center, and from, I don't know if it's the same in every national center. I have a friend who is training near Leeds, and from what I've heard, there are coaches that get kind of divided the athletes, and then everyone follows kind of the same plan or a same structure. Is that how it works for you as well? Do you train in a group that is consisted of Olympic distance triathletes and all of them kind of train towards the Olympic distance triathlon, or do you have more individual approach and more of your own program?
So our centre is quite unique. It's very small. We do some sessions with a group, and then we also have the flexibility to do our own more specific training towards what we are leaning towards. Like in terms of age, it's quite a young centre, so a lot of the athletes there are still training for like sprint distance and junior races. So I think it's a good balance of having people to train with, but also the flexibility and freedom to do your own training out with the group setting as well.
So would you say your training is now more focused on running fast 10K on the road, or is it more towards 3 hours performance in the terrain?
Well, I always enjoy running on the hills and running on the trails. So over winter, that's definitely something I've done a lot of. But like, obviously, like training is different at different points of year, so it will probably change. But still keeping aspects of trails as well, because I really enjoy that, and that's how I find motivation with training, is just doing things that I enjoy alongside obviously the hard work. But
so we're just kind of coming to the end of the winter period right now as we're recording. It's the 23rd of January. I'm kind of putting pressure on myself to edit this as fast as possible afterwards. Anyway, I was going to say, what do you learn from, because you talk about having this big period to work on things, right? So what are you working on specifically from last season? What have you changed? Are there any specific sessions that you've implemented? Are you thinking about, okay, now I have to change, am I trying fueling or something differently?
Yeah, so there's obviously, I'm always trying to get faster, stronger, and fitter. But one thing I've had since probably when I started running, I've been working on like running form, running technique. That's one of the big things I kind of identified like throughout the season and like throughout the past year. It's been something that I kind of have to change to allow me to move forward in the long term. Like lots of running drills and work in the gym to help. My running form is something that's been a bit of a focus this winter.
I'm getting very scared of my.
I think
you don't have to be scared, Aneta. I think Isla's just finishing far ahead of you anyway.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
I don't think you have to be scared. It's not like she's going to be a close competitor.
Nothing I can do about it.
You can just share the secrets while you have some.
I think Isla said so. She doesn't want me to touch her feet anymore, so I think it will be jumping from the start.
So why was it the focus on the run specifically?
Well, often triathlons come down to the run, so
important discipline, yeah.
Important. In XTERRA as well, I've noticed like a lot of times then people like, if my bike isn't quite there next year, I think it would be good to have like the card in my pocket that I know I can run minute, 2 minutes faster than I could last year, which would bump me up a few places. So that's kind of the rationale behind it. And as well on road triathlon as well, then you need to be able to run after coming out of all these usually big packs. Then it's just something that I've identified as like an area to work on.
So clearly there's overlap there, right? Maybe, excuse me if I'm arrogant, but I maybe don't really quite understand the ins and outs of junior or under 23 short distance racing on the road. How, because you need a lot of capacity on the bike in XTERRA. The way I understand triathlon or road triathlon is the swim is extremely important, the bike's important, but not as important, and then the run is important, right? Because that's kind of...
I think a lot of people underestimate the role of cycling in road triathlon because, yes, you don't need to, be in a breakaway, and often it is down to a pack, but the less you suffer on a bike, the better you're going to run. And I think a lot of people don't realize that or don't see how important it is to feel good on a bike and not to use as much energy as you would need to if you are not a strong cyclist.
If that was going to be my question, do you feel like there's an overlap there? Do you feel like the skills you can acquire on the XTERRA circuit you can then sell on the road?
Me? Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Not you, Aneta. We're talking to Isla.
I've done road triathlon as well.
I know.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, especially on more technical courses. I have done a few which are like...
Are there technical courses in road triathlon?
Sometimes. Well,
I think Taylor Nip called it cycling in a parking lot.
Really?
Yeah. She said when someone asked her about LA 28, she said she's not interested in cycling in a parking lot.
Yeah. Also, like, group dynamics, being confident yourself on a bike that you like follow a wheel closely, like because of the group dynamics. And
I don't know how much it has changed in Olympic distance triathlon. When I was racing juniors and U23, it's been sometimes scary to be part of these big groups because there are so many people that are not confident and don't have the skills, and sometimes you just can't avoid it crashes because someone does something stupid.
Yeah, that's I guess that's always the risk. Like, that's why, I mean, not everybody can stay at the front like 3-4 wheels, but that's definitely something that I've tried to think about if I'm in one of these big packs. Then definitely trying to stay out of trouble is like, even if it's a little bit more effort, like I'd rather finish the bike than come off because I've been behind somebody who's...
Is your swimming from group level in an Olympic distance triathlon as well?
I'd say there's more depth of good swimmers in road triathlon. Like, I wouldn't be confident coming out front pack, I would say, but it's because there's more people in it as well. Then you're always around people, so that even if you aren't, then you could probably have like a little group on the beginning of the bike to then work with, so you're not stranded on your own.
But that means you can still improve and be better swimmer, and it's probably something you still aim for, right? Not asking, because it's competitions.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm not obviously the best under 23 swimmer, so I mean, obviously there's always room for development.
This may be giving away way too much, so feel free we can always cut the question or whatever. But Aneta opened a really interesting topic here of the two of you usually at the races you did kind of came out of the water together. And there's a good dynamic there, that, in my opinion, that you guys can kind of work off each other, right? To some extent. I mean, I've yelled... Hasn't happened yet. Has Isla always dropped you?
No, I dropped Isla in Western Park in Czech Republic in Germany after some time. But then Isla dropped me in Molveno, so...
Yeah. Molveno was...
We haven't ride together yet.
But
at least
still,
not for a bigger part of the race.
I've spent time on this podcast yelling at Sullivan Middaugh in my head, at least, saying, "Yeah, drafting exists. Why don't you draft?" I got so excited for...
I did have that strategy in Germany.
You did? Of drafting?
Yes, we're working together because the first part...
we did.
Yeah. We talked to each other and we said, let's work together, at least on the like really fast road path, which is like first 10K. And then I actually dropped Isla only because we got caught by men and the XTERRA rules has changed and now we can draft men. So thanks to that, I actually dropped Isla maybe if we weren't called by the man, maybe it wouldn't happen. So it always comes down to the rules, right? In XTERRA, I feel like that is a very repetitive theme of our podcast.
But my question was going to be, how does that change for next year? Do you still count on Aneta being on your feet? Do you really anticipate to be out front? Again, feel free to not answer the question because that might be giving away too much of your advantage.
I might answer for Isla because I don't think we will compete together much this year.
Well, obviously, like, if we are together, then I would be up for working together. Like, it would make the bike less lonely.
That's quite lonely, right? It is quite long bike. And I think in women's field, we often ride by ourselves for the whole 2 hours. Like, it would be fun to ride with someone, yeah.
No, but what you just said with the rule changes, I'm thinking how the races have developed in the past, right? And especially in the women's and the men's, there's a group. It's never the first swimmer, really, in my opinion. It's always like the first group. But this year, if you can be the first woman with like a proper gap, you can draft men.
Yeah, but there is one important thing to say. The rule has changed.
Again.
The behavior of athletes, not so much. I think the drafting was happening before this rule has changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we have any evidence? Okay, let's not out anybody, but do we have actual evidence?
There is no way XTERRA can control whether we are drafting or not.
Of course, yeah.
It was not defined anyhow. What is drafting? Is it 12 meters? Is it 20 meters? How can you prevent it on a single track in Prachatica? You can't.
Can't, yeah.
So I think it was the only option XTERRA had to change the rule, or like at least in the countries where we raced and where it wasn't the national rule that we can draft men. But ultimately, whether I agree with it or not, I think it's the only possibility, because if you cannot control the rule, then you cannot have that rule. You know what I mean?
How much is an XTERRA win worth? I guess in terms of prize money, it's kind of easy. But I'm thinking, how much could you pay one of the guys who are like top 20?
We are not only ones that have this issue and that have the discussion. I don't know how much you follow non-drafting racing and long distance, because the World Championship this year in Kona is going to be again for women and men. And there is a discussion because Ironman currently has 12-meter drafting rule, and there is a lot of pressure to change it to 20 meters. And what they're saying is that the elite women can actually hire the elite men to wait on them and be 12 meter in front of them and have that drafting advantage.
Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it?
Exactly. You can do exactly the same in XTERRA. And it has happened to me in a cycling race last year.
Really?
Yes. It was a marathon biking race here in Norway where the first woman, I was in a front group, we were 4 women, and we caught a man that had a mechanical. The man started 30 minutes ahead of us and he had a mechanical and we caught him. And 3 of us believed that we are not allowed to draft men. 1 of us believed she is allowed to draft, and she went with the man and won the race. And then we complained about it because we believed that we were not allowed to draft. And they told us that, oh no, you are allowed.
Oh.
She won by 10 minutes, even though we were 3 working together. But she was drafting a man the whole race.
Whoa, that's not great, is it?
No, it was not great. And the UCI rule actually says if the start of men and women category is separate, the races shall not interfere.
Was it a UCI race?
But yeah, it was under UCI rules.
Should have been sanctioned in that case, yeah. Clearly.
To my interpretation, it should not have been allowed, but back to our discussion.
Back to Isla.
Totally.
Not some random Norwegian race you did.
Isla, would you hire a elite man to draft you?
They're all too slow.
Doug was saying this. This is a perfect segue. Doug, who is I don't know what his exact position with XTERRA is actually, but he was riding on one of the electric bikes during World Champs with a follow camera, and he said he was following Isla, and it was on the descent when Isla had a flat tire, and it was the most terrifying thing he has ever done. And Doug is proper good at riding bikes. I mean, he has a lot
He
of
was
experience.
racing in elite, right?
Yeah, he was racing in elite. He has a lot of experience riding, I think, downhill, especially in Scotland. And he said he was terrified.
Well, she is a downhill biker, rider, whatever you call it.
I've done it, like, I wouldn't call myself a downhill rider.
Okay, but you need to have the confidence to actually
yeah.
on the course, which
I think he was following me. I think he was following me on the first lap.
On the first lap when you had a full tire.
Full tire, yeah.
Could you walk us through that? Sorry to stop.
I had the same question.
I think so you come to the World Champs, and can you just walk us through that weekend, those two races, how the whole thing went through your head and what went through your eyes, and especially that moment that our listeners will probably know.
Yeah, so firstly I was like pretty much blown away by the environment. I'd never experienced anything like that. Really excited, like last race of the season, nothing to lose. Just super hyped to be racing. With the actual race itself, like I had no plans to hold anything back for the full distance. So the short track was just like races if I don't have a full distance race to do as well. It was tough. Like I didn't have anything left in my legs at the end, especially on the little kicker hill. But a bit unexpected to come away with a podium in the short track. A bit surreal given like the names that are on the start list and things like that. But it did give me confidence for the full distance. So for the full distance, the swim was a bit more like rough than what I'd experienced in the other XTERRA races. It was much more like road triathlon, where it's a bit more like argy-bargy. But then managed to get some clear water on the second like bit of a lap, and came out of the water first, and onto the bike. It was, as like anyone who knows the course, it's like quite a long uphill, and I was just trying to. I actually at the point of coming out of the water, I didn't know gaps or anything. Having like looked back at the live stream, then I didn't actually realize how close it was in transition. There's so many other things to think about for yourself that you don't really have time to look around. Anyway, just on the first climb, kind of just trying to stay warm, because it had been a bit, for me, like the water temperature wasn't that bad coming from Scotland. Then I dare say it was a bit warm, honestly. But the air temperature, I think, for everybody was a bit of like a challenge. So yeah, just trying to get myself warm on that first bit on the bike. But I didn't bother with any like layers or anything, because I knew once I started riding, then I would warm up. And yeah, we had a little route, but then Alana obviously pulled away. Alanis, pulled away, and then got to the top of the course. I'd not ridden the course since it had like all the heavy rain, and when I'd ridden the course, then I'd managed to do the entire thing riding rather than having to push any of it. So it was a bit of a shock to be like, whoa, that's a lot of mud.
But at this point, you were leading the race. What went through your mind?
I was like, where is it? Like, almost, where is everybody? And how long can this last?
And it did last for quite some time.
Yeah, for the first half of the race.
Yeah, I'm like, because usually from like my past experience last season of like kind of like the amount of time / like kilometers, it's not obviously that transferable across different courses, then I'd be like, I can hear them coming, like, and particularly as it wasn't very technical, then you'd imagine some people would just put down the power and reel you in pretty quickly. But yeah, we got to the technical bit and I was like off my bike pushing, and didn't look around or anything, because I'm like, as soon as you look, then you you kind of feel it on your shoulders, like someone's coming. But just trying to, I think that first bit, trying to just firstly stay upright, get through the mud to the descent was kind of what I was focusing on. And then
there is this part where we go around the lake and you can actually see at least a minute of a gap. You couldn't have seen anyone.
I did not look.
She didn't get there.
No, I did. Yeah.
You did? That was
the lake at the top.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, at the top, yeah. But then you must have gotten some splits down, right? Or didn't you?
I didn't have anybody giving me splits.
You didn't have anybody giving you splits?
No, so
my goodness.
My dad was in the pits and he got his e-bike and like went up the road to see like the road crossing partway up the hill, but I didn't have anyone giving me splits.
And that's how we need to employ David to give her splits.
But okay, you went to the second lap still leading. When did you realize you have a flat tire?
Just after we passed the
aid station.
The aid station, yeah. So I have no idea where I actually managed to get a puncture, because as far as aware, I managed to get down the descent fine. Like you know the sound of a puncture, like, and I didn't hear it or anything. But then once you have a puncture, like your stomach sinks and it's like the most awful thing. But I couldn't see a hole, so I just because it was so muddy, so I just tried to put air in the tire, like I think twice around that little lake at the bottom, and then once again slightly up the hill on the fire road on the second lap. But then I ran out of air. That's I think when the little group around you and Etta passed me, and it was hard to know whether to continue, because I have done a mountain bike race where I've had a puncture before, and 5 punctures.
And important to say, you don't write inserts, right?
You didn't write inserts?
I do now.
Yeah. But
too late.
You didn't have inserts, so when you finished the race, you actually were riding on rim.
Yeah, rim and tire. Yeah, so I was a bit worried, because I was like, well, the last time it took like 3 months for a new wheel to arrive, so I was like a bit like gritting my teeth.
You were thinking about this.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this during the World Champs. I'm gonna have to get a new wheel in 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was quite difficult having everyone pass me, because I was just going. I was still putting an effort. I just wasn't going as fast, because it was like pulling a parachute or something.
Did anyone offer you help? Like, did anyone give you, for example, spare cartridge? Like, I didn't have one, so I couldn't give you anything, but...
Did Anetta offer help?
I didn't have anything. I couldn't have helped her.
You could have given her your wheel.
I had
This is for the future, Isla. Here, take my wheel.
Yeah, there's one age group guy, but I was running by it. I don't know. I just didn't want to stop again. I just because my thought process was like, most of the uphill is gravel, so I'm like, the wheel should be fine, and then it's at the top a lot of running. So again, everybody's running anyways, and then it was just the descent that I was a bit nervous about. I mean, as it happened, I kind of got stuck behind a couple of age group guys on the descent, which kind of forced me to take a bit more chill. And because I was worried with those big berms of like the tire coming completely off the rim and having to run the entire way down the descent. But
imagine riding a world championship event and there's just this girl behind you with a wheel that doesn't have any air in it, just stuck behind you, waiting on the descent.
That the whole time she was concerned for her wheel, but not herself.
Yeah.
If I was riding on the rim, I would be scared that I'm gonna die in the downhill. I wouldn't care about my bike.
I was also sad because the downhill was really fun, so I'm like, I only got one try it.
It was fun.
When you finished the bike, how did you feel starting the run? Like, I mean, it must have been so frustrating to going from first place to what, 7th, 8th?
Yes, I think it was 7th. I didn't overtake. Yeah, it was 7th. It was a bit like, I felt quite fresh actually, because I hadn't gone as hard as I think I maybe would have if I'd still been leading. But that could also be because the run course, it's not the hardest one that I'd done this season. So kind of had that in the back of my mind. Like I'd like split it up into sections, like flat section, and then you have a tiny kicker, and then flat again, and then it's technical through the woods, and flat again. So I kind of just tried to although the one thing I did find tricky was like not being able to see anybody, so not having anyone to chase. Like if someone was saying, I think my dad managed to get onto the run course and say, oh, I can't remember if it was Marta or Emma were like 2 minutes.
Yeah, Marta and Emma were ahead of you about 2 minutes, 2.5.
Yeah.
And then it was, you were in this weird no woman's land where Alanis was 3 minutes behind you, and there's just kind of nobody around you. It's hard to run fast in that situation, isn't it?
Yeah, and yeah.
Does that make you really hungry for next year?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of first started looking at it like, I want to get revenge. But then I was like, actually, that's not like the best way to think about it. I was thinking, it's better to be like, oh, I'm going to have another opportunity to like show what I'm capable of, another opportunity to race. So yeah, looking at it as more of an opportunity rather than revenge.
I think that's what I told you in the finish line straight away. I was like, man, you
I
are
like that video.
You are 21. You're gonna have so many opportunities to win.
I tried to big you up in the live stream. I hope you saw it. I was like, Isla, what the hell? How is she 7th here? It was a stacked race. It was insane. But you, again, going back to our phone call, you talked about Loan and how her kind of misfortune affected your mindset within the race. And I think that kind of goes back to the learning. You said that you saw her because she had, in Germany, for those who don't know, she had broken her chain and had to run for a long time. I think she got it fixed at some point somehow. I'm not sure. And so you said that inspired you, and you kind of pushed through that. And you pushed through that to a 7th at World Champs, which isn't like nuts.
Yeah, because I'm like, part of it is like I've come all this way and I'm like halfway through the race. I might as well try. If you stop, you'll never know. But if you keep going, then you could produce something, even though it's not maybe where you're capable of or where you were at. But like, it gives
7 is better than DNF, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about this. I'm looking at the results, and you beat Alanis Siffert by 3 minutes and 40, riding on a wheel that didn't have air in it for half of a bike. That's just dumb. I mean, I don't have a better way to say it. That just makes no sense. It's like, what?
I wouldn't choose to do that, obviously.
No, I think we can expect big things from you next year. It's gonna be very exciting to follow.
Yeah, I fully agree.
I think with that we can finish today's podcast.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Isla, so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. I really look forward to seeing you race next year.
You're your big fans.
Yeah.
We are huge fans.
I need this
thanks for coming on.
Glenn has with my face on it.
Yes, we do need to do that. Oh, we'll find somebody to do that for you, and we'll participate somehow as well. Thank you so much for coming on, and also thank you for making the time. It has been an absolute pleasure, and we'll be with you next time. I think recording on Monday I'll spoil this at this point, with Artur Sirier. So I'm extremely excited for that as well. I hope he's at least half as entertaining as you were, Isla.
Wait, Artur Forestier or Sirier?
Sirier.
I thought we were having Forestier.
No, Sirier. Yeah, Sirier. You researched the wrong guy in that case.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about Artur Forestier the whole time.
Isla, thanks so much for coming on, and thanks everybody listening. Ciao, ciao.